Okay, I'm delighted today to be joined by Eric Herzog, who's the Chief Marketing Officer and VP Worldwide Storage Channels for IBM Storage Division. Hi, Eric.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having us on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us today. Could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. So I started in product management. I've been with 4 Fortune 500 companies, but I've also been with 7 startups. And my background is much broader than just, if you will, product management and marketing. I've run sales 4 times in startups. I've even been a CFO in one of those startups, raised $37 million. I've been a VP of human resources 3 times. I've run manufacturing and support service, obviously, along with sales. So my background is very broad, especially for someone who's now in a big company, basically because of all that experience on the startup side.
Wow, fantastic. That's impressive. This is your profile in the Onalytica platform. So here, your role is down as senior management, C-suite executive, marketing professional, CMO, and your persona we have as industry practitioner. And here we have your audience size and your engagement and your authority. So here we see your network. These are the people you're most engaged with on Twitter. And here we can also see your thought leadership topics. So about 2/3 of your conversation is around the topic of cloud computing. You also talk about AI, data privacy and protection, digital transformation, cybersecurity, coronavirus, and finance as well. If we scroll down here, we can see a little bit more information about your network. So this is who you're engaged with in the last 180 days. Their roles are mostly tech professionals, also senior management people and marketing professionals, primarily in the technology industry, but also in the sports industry and politics. In terms of brand mentions, you've mentioned IBM the most, and also Gartner, AWS, Amazon, Red Hat, and some others there. You can also see your Twitter engagement scores here. So this is your audience size on Twitter, and this is the number of likes and retweets you get on average per post. And then this is your post frequency per month. If we just dig into the content tab here on the platform, so I can show you a little bit more about your actual conversations online. So some of the keywords that you're talking about, flash system is popping up as the most common. So IBM storage, IBM visualize, and OPEX are some of the keywords there. And in terms of hashtags, IBM storage is the main one. Also hybrid cloud, flash system, and storage. And you can actually dig into some of the posts here. And I just wanted to quickly show you as well the Who's Who in Hybrid Cloud report that we published recently. And this is a Who's Who, the top influencers, voices, and brands in hybrid cloud. Brand employee and industry practitioner is the category we've put you in here. Do you know a lot of other people on this list?
There are a few here. I know Howard Boville. I know the VMware guy, Martin, and I'm familiar with the guy from AWS.
Fantastic. Okay, so just moving on then, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the key topics. We've talked about it briefly there, but what key topics would you say you're currently mainly focused on?
Well, obviously, I'm focused, of course, on the IBM storage portfolio and how that interfaces into real world applications of workloads, whether that be the world of containers, whether that be hybrid cloud. And clearly, one of the things that a lot of technologists don't do is translate that into business value. So I spend a lot of time talking about not only what I'll call the technical speeds and feeds and the technical superiority, but how that benefits a business. For example, if you use our FlashCore modules, we've seen public references, right? So real end users who said their performance on an SAP workload went from 30 hours to 30 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's really interesting. So within your key topics, what trends could you see coming up in the next 5 years that you think people need to be aware of?
First of all, from a more technical perspective, is the rise of containers. It's a new way for application development to be done. It is an interstitch layer in between a server and the applications. Second thing is clearly hybrid cloud, not just cloud. I would say that while cloud is going to increase with a big C, within that you've got private clouds that run, literally for security reasons only on your own premise, but behave like Amazon or IBM Cloud or Microsoft Azure, except it's your own. Okay.
Right. Okay,
then you've truly 100% public, and then you've got hybrid, where some of the data and some of the infrastructure is on-prem and some is off-prem. So the third trend is the rise of AI technology into everything, manufacturing of all site, right? You've got robotics, which hit both the computer side and the auto side very heavily to build things. Well, now you need to do AI. So you've got AI technology in all industries now, big, medium, or small. And then I think the other thing, which is hitting every company, whether you're in high tech or not, is the whole aspect of cybersecurity and cyber resiliency. For example, there was a case that was local here to Silicon Valley, the University of California, San Francisco. They actually had ransomware very beginning of July last year, and it ended up in the newspapers, and they ended up paying the ransom because they needed to have access to his healthcare data. So those are the trends I think that are big: the container trend, the cloud trend, including heavily hybrid cloud, and obviously the cybersecurity and cyber resilience. So those are the big trends that I see impacting everyone, not just in the IT space, but beyond IT.
No, that makes sense. What would you say within those areas, those topic trends that you mentioned, some of the most innovative companies, what are they doing in those areas, would you say?
Well, there's a lot of innovation in all the cloud companies. So all of them, IBM, Azure, AWS, Google, and companies that you don't always associate with cloud, like Salesforce.com. It is a cloud delivery model. The other thing that shouldn't be ignored is things that are going on in the small cloud providers, like OVH in Europe. In the container space, it's heavily focused on Red Hat and VMware. Cybersecurity and cyber resiliency, again, is all over the map. You've got a lot of innovative startups that are really pushing things. They're all over the place, Silicon Valley and other areas. Of course, you have the big players, of course. You've got the McAfees, you've got the Blue Coats, you've got IBM. All of the cloud providers have a heavy angle on security. So whether that be Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and obviously the IBM Cloud Group versus what IBM Security does.
Well, that's really interesting. So who would you say are some of the influencers that you follow in those spaces at the moment?
So I'm pretty open. There isn't anybody in particular that I follow in any of these segments, except in the storage segment, because that's my segment. In others, I'm constantly on the lookout for innovative statements from, of course, academics. Clearly, I pay attention to what the VC community is doing.
Interesting. So just broadly speaking, what impacts have you seen in the tech industry due to COVID recently?
Well, I think the big thing, obviously, is a change from an IT perspective, specifically on what you have to do to adapt to not only your own company mostly working from home, but your customers working from home. Mm-hmm. So that has impact on everything from how you do selling, how you do marketing. The impacts are not just in the IT sector from a COVID perspective. Clearly, the cybersecurity issues come up more. How you communicate and protect. How does the company, and I don't mean just high-tech companies, how do companies communicate? How do they reach people? What do they do? How do they deliver support and service was heavily online, but what do you do if someone has to buy a physical entity? So for example, at IBM Storage, we sell storage that has to physically be installed in a data center. So we've had to adapt in a number of ways. We got to go to that data center, or our business partners need to do. You have to be masked up. You have to take all the right precautions. So COVID has had an impact from that perspective as well. And I do think from an IT perspective in particular, what we have as an IT company is this move to the acceleration of digital transformation. Those are lots of impacts that have impacted every area that people have never thought of.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, just moving on then. So outside of your key topics, were there any other topics that you'd say you have a keen interest in?
I'm a big sports nut. In high school, I wrestled and played baseball, and in college, I wrestled and I played rugby.
One final question. So say if I was a brand and I wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for me to reach out to you?
Yeah, either through my IBM email, herzog@us.ibm.com, or over LinkedIn.
All right, well, brilliant. That's really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Thank you so much. It's been fascinating hearing you talk about all the amazing topics and all the great work that you do. So yeah, thanks so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thank you very much.